All right, it's 3 o'clock. We'll get started. My name is Erik Wieland. I'm from UC San Francisco, along with my colleagues Christian Sisenstein and Winnie. We're here to talk about how to build an IT development and mentorship program. So I presented this with my colleague Andres Salinas in 2015 at UC Riverside. Thank you, Riverside. And we had just started our program then. And so what this is really what we've learned by running our first year's program, and now we're in our second year. So we're going to share some of the things we learned, some of the things we do now that we didn't realize we needed to do when we started, and then talk about how we would do it all over again, essentially, so that you can learn from our mistakes. So any dental school people here? There's a few dental schools in the UC. So this is a little wisdom from your dentist. It actually applies really well. The fonts didn't work out so well. It works with staff as well. So let's just talk about why you want this. Development's an opportunity to reinforce what we do and why the university exists. And development improves engagement. And so if you have engaged staff, those are the staff that are more willing to go the extra mile, do the little extra that kind of makes their work worthwhile. It also reminds them that the university cares, well, at least someone at the university cares for them as a person and as a professional. And that increases their commitment to the university in turn. Staff who are engaged and committed are more likely to reach across silos and maybe even become our next leaders. We encourage staff to take control of their own development through this program. And it helps them make connections to people in different areas. So programmers making connections with people in customer support, making connections with people in clinical support, in procurement, and so on. And our programs and mentors give the mentees a better understanding of their own strengths. And really, until you understand what you're capable of and where your interests lie, it's hard to figure out how to do the best job. So how did we start? If we were to start all over again, we would do it the same way, I think. There are people around you who are interested in this stuff, and you talk about this all the time. It took us 10 years to get our program started, but once we started it, it's as if it had existed all along. So we rounded up what we call the usual suspects. These are the people who are on all the committees. They work on all the projects. They're the ones that people look to kind of make the connections and make the meaningful change. They're the ones who are going to want to help you with this. They don't even know it sometimes, but they will. Andres and I went through a School of Medicine leadership development program at UCSF, and we also mentored through ABOG. ABOG has had a mentorship program since the early 90s at UC San Francisco that's actually based on our faculty mentorship program. So it's all, heavily peer-reviewed and tested and tried. So we literally stole from both those programs and said, here's our program, doesn't it look great? And it worked out really well. When we presented this then to our leadership, they said, that sounds amazing. Why don't we make this campus-wide? And we said, can we fail small first? Then if we don't fail, we'll make it bigger. So we're still just a small IT organization right now, and we're going to eventually expand it to the rest of the campus. Once you've got your idea, just start to talk about it. You'll talk to people and they'll say, that sounds amazing. And then the next thing out of your mouth ought to be, great, how can I get you to help me? They want to help, you just have to give them the opportunity. So start talking to the people who might benefit, so the potential mentees, the managers who want their staff developed, and then start talking to the people who they ought to be thinking of themselves as mentors, and they just haven't yet. So people go to them for advice already. Those are the people you want mentoring. Then you go and ask for money, and this is where the fun starts. I presented this to our directors, and the first thing they said was, how much is it going to cost? And then the second thing they asked was, can we get a cocktail budget so I can take my mentee out for drinks, and that way we'll really talk about the truth. We got a little bit of money, no cocktail budget. Then we created a brand, and pick your brand carefully. We are the development and mentorship program, which someone's like, what's the IT dump? So we might change that. And then finally, the most attractive person in the world is the one who thinks you are great. And so if you reach out directly to someone and say, I think you would be an amazing mentor, and talk to them about what that might look like, they probably will at least consider it. Whereas if you just say, hey, everyone sign up to be mentors, you'll get maybe 10 people. We get 50 if we go to them one by one. Same thing with mentees. It's the people who maybe their manager doesn't encourage them. Maybe they haven't thought of themselves as needing development. If you reach out to them directly and tell them what the benefits will be, you're much more likely to get people signing up. Okay, so our program is a mentee cohort of 12. There is a year-long mentoring relationship with either a senior technologist or a manager. We have monthly program meetings where people come in and learn from existing leaders about how they got there, what their strengths are, what they recommend people do. We have mentee-only check-ins where the mentees can basically go and complain about their mentors, complain about the program, complain about their boss. It's important for them to build that peer organization. We have mentee and mentor check-ins with the steering committee. So all the mentees come together once a quarter and tell the steering committee, we like this, we don't like that, we want more of that. That was really cool. Same thing with the mentors. What should I be doing with my mentee? Should I be taking them to meetings? Should I say this to them, not say this to them? It's really important for people to understand what they should and shouldn't worry about, and then they'll do the rest. We instituted a project team where each of the mentees is split up into a small group and they pick a project. And so we have them work on that for about half the program, the second half of the program. And then we have a big graduation, we have the chancellor come, we have our CEO from the Med Center come. It's great. So who runs this? It's a steering committee, 12 angry men. No, well, not so angry, more happy men. And it's actually mostly women. So it's 12 committee members, one current mentee every year. So last year, our current mentee was Christian, and now he's on the steering committee. We also have a clinical systems program representative. So we have a separate IT organization that just manages clinical systems. They have their own program. We eventually want to merge them. So we have this cross-pollination going on already. We have a mentoring work group within the committee where all the things we work on are mentoring related. So recruiting, doing the mentee applications, doing the mentor match, managing the mentoring relationship throughout the year. So it's very, very much front-loaded for people applying and then getting matched up. And then we have a programs work group that's led by Christian, where most of their work is kind of spread out throughout the year to get the speakers, to organize the different soft skills learning events and all that. So our mentees, we come up with essentially a list of requirements for our mentees. And the reason we did this was we didn't think it would be, we wouldn't be teaching the mentees the same things if they were at the highest levels and then if they were early career. So we cap our mentees at grade 25. It's kind of arbitrary. We just took a look at the roster in IT and it looks like all the senior technologists and the managers tend to be above that. So our mentees are between grade 17 and 25, and the first question we got was, well, can you mentor my associate director? And we're like, well, that's kind of your job for now. Maybe we'll talk about program 2 later. And we asked that they demonstrate their commitment to their own development, to the mission of the university, and to also explain to us what they'll bring to the cohort. And we have 5 basic questions that we ask them, and how they answer on that is the largest part of their score. So it's things like, why you want to do this, what will you bring to the program, what gaps do you perceive in your professional development, describe your work on a project that you're particularly proud of, and how will you build your network to make IT better. We select them by having the entire committee score them, and then we come up with an aggregate score. We also get feedback from managers, both positive and negative. We don't blackball anyone, but we do like to get managers to tell us this person might not write very well, but they have this commitment to the organization that really gives them a plus. It's kind of a big upside. We add that to their score. We also look for a cohort that has a real diversity of backgrounds and experiences, because we find that the person who's been there for 25 years and the person that's been there for 1 year, they often bring things that are really valuable to the cohort, and we want both. We want the experience and this is what we've tried and that's failed. And we want the person that says, I have fresh eyes, this is all doable. And both of those are valuable. And now we're in our second year, and we had a bunch of people apply the first time and not get in. We give them a second look. We look at their previous application, we look at their current application, we see how they've grown. And actually half of our cohort this time is people who applied before, because that really shows a dedication to apply twice, get rejected once, and apply again. So, and this is just a sample of some of our scoring. I changed the names to protect the innocent. Then we do a match. How many people here work at a health institution that does like residency fellow matches? Okay, this is new to all of you. Our residency and fellow programs go through something called ERIS, the Electronic Residency Application System, and they do this. This is how they get matched with their programs. They rank the top 5 or 6 programs they want to apply to. The programs themselves rank the top 5 or 6 residents that they want, and it's the highest mutual match. So we use the same method. We essentially, everyone ranks, every mentor ranks potential mentees, every mentee ranks potential mentors, and we end up with a really high mutual ranking because we force top 5. We force the mentees to actually meet with all of the mentors that they're going to rank, because a lot of IT people are kind of shy, and so you got to force them to get out there and do it. We also give them the tools to kind of find the right mentor for them by giving them a bunch of tips. We call them match tips. It gives them the idea of like, you can ask these questions, don't be afraid, make sure that you're reaching out, everyone wants to help. And then all the mentors want the best match for the mentee, so we tell the mentors, it's not a contest that you get the best mentee, it's a contest for the mentee to get the best match. So we tell the mentors, tell them who else they should talk to. So I tell all the people that interview with me, here's 5 other people you should talk to. I don't get the highest rank, but everyone's happy. So. And I can show you all how to do this if you really want to run your own program. It's nerdy fun. Okay, so the mentoring model. Once we've matched these people, a mentor and a mentee are matched for the year, we give them a guide. And this is all based on our faculty mentoring guide. And it's really interesting documentation and stuff from journals about here's the best way to structure a relationship, here's the way to mentor, here's the way not to mentor. So it gives them some guidelines on how to do this if they've never done it before. A lot of the people we have mentoring are new to it, and they decide that they love it and they keep doing it, but this is how they get started. And then we have them sign an agreement. So essentially, here's how often we're going to meet, here's what we're going to talk about, here's what we're not going to talk about. Some people say, I never want to talk about politics. Others are like, let's talk about politics. And we have them sign that, and it's really more of an exercise to reach that agreement. We don't hold them to it. They meet at least once a month. We recommend that they check in often, so they all have IM usually, and they call each other, text each other. And the best thing is for each of them to be vulnerable and fallible. There's nothing worse than a mentor who knows it all, because they're really not teaching you anything. They're just teaching you what they know. So we teach the mentors in particular, they're all very senior people, show a little vulnerability, show them how you failed. And one of the best examples of what Christian will talk about is our Med Center CEO comes in and says, I made a terrible mistake 10 years ago. Here's what I did, and here's what I would change for now. It's really, it's humbling to know that these are real people. So we also tell people to, well, of course, maintain confidentiality. That is actually something that runs throughout our program. We don't talk about each other's dirty laundry. It's all about trust. So. And then we teach the mentors, here's how you start mentoring people. The best way to mentor someone is to demonstrate for them what leadership looks like. So bring them to meetings, bring them to conferences like this. So last year we had one of our mentee teams actually come and present at UCCSC. They did a great job, and there are actually 2 of them right here. We send our mentees on informational interviews. We help the mentee understand the organization. And at a place like UCSF, where we have basic science and education and clinical, and the organization and the cultures are very different depending on where you go, that's a really important piece. And then, of course, share your successes, learn from your failures. So bring people to conferences like this and talk about what a great job we do, and then have fun. So.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Christian. As Erik pointed out, I'm on the programs kind of work group of the mentorship committee. Last year, I was also a mentee. So Erik had approached me and said, hey, do you want to be on this committee and help do this thing? And I get super excited anytime anybody asks me to do anything. So I said yes, and then I decided I'd go ahead and apply too because I'm on the committee. They can't really say no. So I was able to be a mentee as well and had a really, really, really wonderful time. And this year I'm actually put my hat in the ring to be a mentor, and I was matched. So I have a mentee as well. So I kind of have the whole trifecta of this program. So I really understand all the times that I screw up. So we're learning from our mistakes as we go, but what we see now here is the programs meeting. So in the programs work group, we have a monthly meeting that's about 90 minutes. So we do 30 minutes for lunch and socialization and 60 minutes of content. And we find that lunch and socialization to be extremely important. Your mentee-mentor relationship is so much more than just the one-on-one that you get when you pair with a mentor. But now you've got this room once a month where all these senior leaders of IT are there, and you can start rubbing elbows with these people, and you can start getting your name out, and you can start tossing some ideas around in kind of, what we call our safe space. And so it's really, really beneficial. So we find that 30 minutes of lunch and socialization to be extremely important. So the mentees are there getting a free lunch, and they don't know it, but we're kind of working in all this to kind of help them build their network and just kind of utilize the program to its fullest. The invitees for the monthly program meetings are all the mentees that are required to be there. All the mentors are required to be there. And then the committee members are optional if they'd like to attend. And then as Erik mentioned, a lot of times we have guest speakers that come and join us as well. As I said, meetings at lunchtime worked really well because when you have 12 senior leaders in IT and you're trying to plan their schedule, lunchtime is usually a pretty good time where they don't have anything blocked on their calendar. As I said, it encourages socialization, and free food makes people show up. I mean, quite frankly, that was what sold me to do this whole thing to begin with. And then I actually did my own research.
It was so helpful to have Jane to go to for support. And
You get a preview of our slides now.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry about that, guys. That there was a direct correlation between the presence of bacon food options and engagement. So always encourage you to not skip ahead in your slides and instead provide bacon food options to the attendees. And so what are the goals that we try to accomplish when we run these program meetings? And that is to put all of the mentees and mentors together on a regular basis. So again, it's so much more than that one-on-one relationship, but now you can get all of these brains and these very smart people in the same place. And we focus on that socialization and collaboration. We also want to make sure that the content is interesting and fun and concrete, so it's actually usable. We always try to instill this exclusivity of this program. So here we're asking people that you have to apply, and then you have to have, it really helps to have some support from your management and your leaders out there. So we really want to make this program exclusive. We want people to feel very special that they're there, and so we want to make sure that we're delivering good, concrete information and relationship building to these people. So those are the goals, and then we basically have 3 points of focus for the meeting, and that is give them something to listen to, on which we'll go over a little bit more, give them something to do, and then make sure you give it all some meaning. So when we talk about giving it something to listen to, what are we talking about? We're talking about having guest speakers come in and give leadership talks. So we find it really, really important to make sure that it's inspirational. The speakers that you choose should be seasoned public speakers with a known ability to inspire. So make sure you don't get your boring boss or director in there. Make sure you're really looking through your list of speakers and that they're actually going to deliver some good content. Make sure you have a variety of guest speakers. So that was kind of one of the mistakes that we learned from the first year, is that we decided, since this is an IT program, let's get all the IT directors to come in of the different business units, and then each of them to give one presentation. And we kind of found that a lot of the mentees, and again with the mentee check-ins that Erik mentioned, the feedback was that was kind of boring. I already know what that department does, and I already know what that department does. And rather, we decided, okay, let's actually go a little bit outside of IT. Let's go to research. Let's go to education. Let's go to these other departments and then find times where they've worked with IT and then ask them to bring that in. So let's go find the leaders, give your leadership spiel, tie it into IT so that we can kind of feel like, I actually had a part in that, but not the boring, this is what the security department does, this is what the, desktop engineering department does, because everybody in IT kind of already knew that. And don't be afraid to reach outside the org. So I say that, and we have yet to have a successful initiation of bringing somebody in from the outside. But one of the other people on the programs committee, I mean, we've contacted Mark Benioff and like the CEO of the Giants, and like, hey, let's shoot for the stars. Again, no success yet, but we're going to keep trying. So we're that's something that we thought was really important. But we also want to make sure that you outline your talk to your leaders, tell them kind of the things that you want to hit, but don't give them something that's super prescriptive, because we want it to be organic. Let the speaker speak, especially going back to when you're choosing your speaker, that they're known good public speakers with an ability to inspire. So let them talk what they want to talk about. Make sure you tell them to not only share their successes, but their failures as well. So I'll expand a little bit on what Erik talked about, but we bring our CEO of the medical center to come in. And one of the things right off the bat, you can tell as soon as he starts talking, he's super comfortable. He's comfortable in a 2,000 person audience where I've seen videos of him speak. And then we get this very intimate, he's talking to 24 people, and he's super comfortable, and he's talking right off the bat, super candid. I mean, if you feel like he didn't practice because he didn't need to practice, and he's just shooting the breeze and having a wonderful conversation. And the things that he would tell us is how he got to where he was. And then somebody would ask, well, what was your big failure? And of course, here we thought we were going to get some, kind of like canned response on, oh, I should have done this. He gave an incredibly inspiring story where he had to make a very, very difficult decision, and he actually still regrets the decision that he made. And so this was 20 some years later where he made what he felt was probably one of the biggest mistakes of his professional career, but he learned from it and he used that every day as growth. And something like that was just so hard-hitting that all of the mentees remembered that. Every check-in we had, they all said, we want our talks, we want our program meeting to be like that. So we've tried to use that, and that's something that we find super important, and we talked about it multiple times. Make sure you ask them to talk about their failures too, because learning from your mistakes is what makes you a good leader as well. And make sure you have plenty of time for questions for your speakers. So we try not to jam too much in. We've got 60 minutes of content, but we really only want one speaker to come in. So it's plenty of time for them to kind of go off the cuff if they feel like it, or at least answer a lot of questions. So now let's move on to something we do. So what do? We also we try to schedule the monthly meetings to also include some professional skills development as well. So things that you can think of, like time management skills or public speaking skills or presentation skills, those kinds of things that we find that are really important to be successful in our organization. We always try to make sure we tie it back into something, whether it's the mission of the organization or the meeting theme, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But it also gives the one-on-one, so the mentee-mentor matches, a chance to work together. So when you're doing something fun like an improv class or Toastmasters or something like that, you can kind of pair them off, and it gives them a chance to kind of build their relationship outside of their normal one-on-one meetings as well. And it also encourages teamwork among the whole cohort. Another thing that we kind of recommend is kind of some sort of skill or self-discovery tools. So there's lots of them out there, such as strengths finders or true colors. Those kinds of things are really, really helpful. Now, we actually use those to help develop some more of our program, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But giving your mentees and mentors a chance to kind of look inward and see what kind of skills or personality traits that they can kind of help hone in on to make them good leaders. And then they can work directly with their mentor to kind of help focus on those things. And then ask the mentees what they want too. I mean, most of the time, we don't know what we're doing until the month before. And that's because we're waiting for feedback. We do those mentee-mentor check-ins. We say, hey, what do you guys want to see? What's been working so far? What hasn't been working? And then we let it all come in. Again, as Erik mentioned, this is only our second year. So most of the program is kind of, it's feedback-based. What's working, what's not. And here's like some kind of examples of the some things that we do and how they kind of tie to it. And we try to keep it fun. That is probably one of the most important things. We call it edutainment. And so that's a fun buzzword that we say all the time. But Toastmasters is a really good one to help with public speakers. We have a local Toastmasters chapter, and we had a couple of people come in from there and give some examples and help make people get up and talk about, forks and spoons and other inanimate objects. And it was a lot of fun and really successful. An improv class is another one that we found super successful. It kind of helps people get used to quick thinking and reacting. So when you're in that meeting, your boss says, hey, what's up with that? And you were totally not prepared. You can kind of use, the skills that you learned from your improv class to kind of, quick thinking on your feet. And then again, Strength Finder is one that we use all the time, and it's super important, but it actually gives the mentees and mentors a chance to kind of do some self-discovery and see what skills they have, and then they can kind of hone in on it. And the last of the goals is to give it all some meaning. So especially in IT at UCSF, we forget sometimes the actual mission of our organization is to advance healthcare worldwide. And so although I'm at a keyboard and I'm, making sure malware isn't getting into the environment or looking at some DLP scans or whatever it is, I forget that I actually support an organization that's saving lives or performing research to, come up with that next cure, that next type of procedure. So we try to make the mentees in the mentorship program remember that. So we always try to remind them, how does this apply to the mission? So I know you're having fun, you're talking to this Toastmasters person, or you're eating a sandwich, and that's all great, and we're having a good time, but how does that tie back in? So when we're talking about improv, let's talk about, thinking about how we can help take your project to the next level so that it can actually help deliver patient care or whatever it is that your organization's mission is. And the other thing that we like to do is to come up with program meeting themes. And so, as we mentioned a couple of times, our first speaker that we bring in for every kickoff, well, every, so far two, is our CEO, Mark Lorette there. And he gives us kind of his breakdown of leadership qualities. And we've used these in order to build our themes. So we take these qualities and each one of those becomes a theme going forward. And it does a couple of things, but one of the things that it does is help people remember that talk. And this is such a great influential talk, and it's a great way to start our program. So when we take things like humility and apply that to one of our program meetings, it helps remind people about that talk. And then the last part of the mentee programs committee is our mentee projects. And so, as I said, we do the Strengths Finders test, and all the mentees and mentors take a part of that in the beginning. And then what we do, and Erik's wonderful Excel magic, we separate into three teams of 4 mentees. And we like to use the different strengths to kind of come up with a balanced team. And what these project teams do is they're asked to solve a problem in IT. And we don't ask them to actually come up with a solution or come up with a technical solution because we understand all these people have real jobs and we don't want to take up too much of their time, but it's to develop an STP, a situation, target, and proposal on how to actually fix that problem or that thing that's broken in IT. And it gives the mentees a chance now to actually take a problem and say, all the times when you're at lunch and you're talking with your coworkers and you're like, oh, I wish the managers would fix this, or, I wish they'd fund this, or why aren't they doing it? Well, now you can. You are somebody now, and something that you thought was important, you can take this project team and kind of put together a proposal for it. And we don't take this lightly. At the end of the year, right before graduation, we actually have them present to some other senior leaders in IT. Last year, they presented to the CIO and a couple of other people that were senior in IT, and it actually gave them a chance to say, hey, maybe we can turn one of these into a funded project. So it's really important. But what the mentees do is they split into teams, and then they have to choose a project mentor. And this can be from within the program or without the program. Last year, Winnie and I were on the same project team, and then we picked a mentor. That our project was about lean. I don't know if anybody came to that talk last year at UCCSC, but we talked about how to miniaturize lean and kind of apply it to small-scale items. And then we picked our project mentor, which was the lean initiator at UCSF. And it really was a great time, and it was lots of fun. And that's one of those ones we were able to present at the end of the year to the CIO. Unfortunately, ours didn't win, but that's okay. Maybe next year. But this is a great opportunity for the mentees to get a chance to actually, get down in the nuts and bolts of a project, do project management, and from the start to the finish. And nobody can get in their way, so they've got really no excuse for it not to solve the problem that they're constantly complaining about or wanting to solve. But yeah, so that's the programs in a nutshell.
Thank you, Christian. Hi, my name is Winnie Watt. I'm one of the mentees last year, and this year I joined as a steering committee member. So in 2010, I was actually in the UCSF ABOG mentorship, and that was also another great program, but it wasn't specifically to IT. So I waited, and then after 6 years later, and thanks to Erik and our CIO and also Jane Wong, was very supportive of having one just for the IT staff. So it was mind-blowing for me because I was happy to be doing my day-to-day job, but I really wanted to give back and be part of the program. So I was matched up with my mentor, Victor Galvez, and our experience was great. Although with the ABOG, I still keep in touch with my previous mentor. But with Victor, we had a lot in common. One of the things that I wanted to do was public speaking, because I have very fear of speaking in public. So every Tuesday of each week, we took Toastmasters together, and we had lunch meetings, we had shadow meetings to get to know about his team. So it was building a team and also a friendship. So this is a picture of Christian, Emily, and I at the UCCSE last year, presenting for Lean. So some of the advice for the mentees, this is a great program for staffing engagement to improve our culture. One of the great sessions that I learned this morning. So, you know, to just to be open, never fear to reach out to these busy executive, either through email, chat, or in person, and just be open as a mentee to be vulnerable. You know, as IT staff, we're either trying to move up the ladder or speak about our challenges day to day. So it's really to just let your guard down and listen to constructive feedback, which is very beneficial for me. One of the things that I recommend for the mentee is to bring an agenda, because they're very busy, and always have an agenda and talking points so you can get your message across. To be able to have a successful mentorship relationship, I would think that it's a partnership. To other than just learning from the mentor, is to have the capacity of empathy, because we're all learning. So we might think that, oh, our daily challenges are tough, but as managers, they have additional worries. And then when I was able to expose my ideas, theories, and practice, it was a great safe zone. And here is one of the activities that we did, trapped in room with the zombie. Here on the left is Victor Galvez, my mentor. Unfortunately, we were caught by the zombie 2 minutes before the time, but we had a great time.
I appreciate the time my mentor took out of her busy day to spend time with me discussing my career goals and for sharing her knowledge and personal experiences.
Here are some testimonials from our mentees and mentors.
It was so helpful to have Jane to go to for support and for a different perspective on situations. Just knowing she was there to talk with made me feel better, especially when leadership above me was changing over the last 6 months.
How my understanding of UCSF and its mission has been expanded, the insights I've gained through my relationship with my mentor, thank you Erik Wieland, and to have had such a rich opportunity to better know my colleagues is a true gift for strengthening my career here at UCSF.
The team building exercise, Escape from Circus, was an awesome, fun experience.
Because we escaped.
Being part of the DMP has been a fabulous experience, and I'm very grateful to have been selected and have gone through the year-long program.
I really enjoyed my experience working on the group project with my fellow team members.
I really enjoyed working with my team and getting to know them. Whatever that special formula that they made that put us together, it worked. We each brought something different to the table, and it all kind of magically fit to make something we were pleased with in the end.
To me, it's all about giving back. I feel honored to be in the program and now a committee member. So as continuous improvement on the program, we like to give feedback and work with our mentees. So one of the new ideas that the committee has decided is to have a buddy program. So we can buddy up with a previous mentee so they can go to somebody if they have any questions. And the committee is very open to new ideas, and we can keep our focus on the growth and reevaluate the program throughout the year. So I'm just really honored that the group is very supportive, and together we make a living by what we can get, but make a life of what we can give. And hopefully the vision is to be able to connect with other UCs, have staff engagement programs like these, and we can coordinate with each other and expand the program. And here's a picture of our graduation with the mentees. And now Erik is going to talk about the resources.
So this is how we did it, but we want to share with anyone who wants to duplicate this or steal from our ideas. We also want to learn about your ideas. So the IT community Slack channel is dedicated to talking about community programs and engagement for faculty, staff, and customers. We also have our website and links to the ABOG mentorship program at UCSF and also the School of Medicine Leadership Development Program, which is where we got a lot of our ideas. Our clinical systems leadership program, we have a member from that program on our committee, and the first thing she said was, you guys do this one thing much better than us. I'm stealing that today. And so now when we finally merge, we'll probably have very similar programs. We learned from the Stanford alumni mentoring program as well, so where you have alumni actually mentor undergrads, which is very cool. And then when we presented in 2015, we had people come up to us after our presentation and say, we do something similar, we should talk. So we learned a lot from Berkeley, Office of the President, San Diego. And just here's our technology stack, but this is how we collaborate and kind of run the program. We use Qualtrics to get feedback from the mentees. We use it for all the applications, for all the rankings, and then just an assortment of things. And if you actually want to hear more about how we use Box, you can come to my next session at 4. So that's pretty much it. Anyone have any questions for us or comments or tell us what we should do differently? Mm-hmm.
Have you ever come across a situation where a mentee did not get
No. The question was, did a mentee ever not get their manager's support? The CIO and the directors own our program, and they communicate to all of the managers the importance of the program, both in their team meetings, but also by participating themselves. So that message from the top and that modeling of what leadership is, really, we've never had anyone say, I can't spare my mentee. We have had people say that they can't spare the time themselves and just not applied, but that never came from their manager.
Are you doing anything to track the progress your mentees make after the program over time?
They tell us. They're actually really proud of the, hey, I finished the program and then 6 months later I'm now a supervisor, or I got involved in this really cool project. And essentially what we say to these mentees is that after they graduate, they're the new usual suspects. They're their generation's version of that, where they're going to be involved in all the projects, the initiatives. They tend to be the more likely to volunteer. They tend to be the more likely to be asked to volunteer for things. So I think it's not so much measured in success as promotions or something like that. It's really the success that they bring to the entire organization.
During one-on-ones with your mentor or mentee, how do you come up with topics to discuss? Is it weaknesses out of the personality test, or what?
So the question was, how do the mentees and the mentors come up with topics to discuss? The mentees and the mentors pick each other, and it's usually because they have some mutual interest or some common goal. So a good example is my mentee this year. We picked each other because she and I have very different backgrounds from a standard kind of IT person and also from each other. And she wants to understand the organization better, and I want to understand what kind of work she does. And so essentially our check-ins are, what projects are you working on? What challenges have you had? And what would you like to learn next? And a lot of my mentoring is I'll send people on informational interviews, have them talk to, if you really want to learn about that thing, you should go out and talk to this person who's in this completely different department. They'll come back and they'll tell me what they think about it, and I'll say, okay, so you liked this, you didn't like that, let's send you off in this direction now.
So how did you make that match?
We met with each other at the mixer that we have every year, and then she came and talked to me one-on-one, and we just chatted. And the mentees get a list of kind of sample questions that actually Christian and his cohort helped put together last time. And that list keeps growing. And essentially the mentees will choose the questions that kind of suit their personality or their needs best. And then they'll decide, I think that mentor can help me. And then I'll say to myself, that's an obvious match, but maybe I don't want to match with that person because it's, they can get that help from anyone. Maybe I want to work with someone who can only get the help that my 20 years plus in IT can provide. I don't know. So it's a different thing for every pair. It's not about the right topic or the right leader. It's about the right relationship. You really have to click. There has to be a chemistry.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think there's basically, we found there's kind of two kinds of relationships. There's the mentees that go to their mentor and say, I don't know what to do or what to talk about or what I want to learn. And so then the mentors will kind of like dig it out of them and ask them questions. Then they develop kind of an agenda from there. And then you've got the other type where the mentee knows exactly what they want and they say, I want help with this, 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 and this. And so that's kind of the thing that we tell people when you're talking to, before you match and before you rank, figure out what you want. Do you know exactly where you want to go and you just need somebody to hold your hand and take you there? Or do you have no idea and you need somebody that's a little bit more, ready to kind of develop that program or that agenda with you? And you'd be surprised. You'd think that, everybody's kind of like knows what they want. They don't. I think that that's a smaller number of relationships. The more relationships are, hey, somebody told me about this and it sounds cool, but I don't know. And so that's kind of, we just try to make sure that you get paired properly, because if you're with somebody that, is very ready to give you exactly the steps, but you already have your own steps outlined, that kind of, you butt heads a little bit. So we try to make sure that they get aligned properly.
I was just curious, as a mentor yourself, what were the things you were trying to gain from that experience?
Yeah, no, so personally, it's kind of what Winnie said as well. So I feel I'm a very big advocate of strengths finders, and I definitely believe in you find something that you're good at or you're reasonably good at, and you kind of hone those, right? I don't want to worry about my weaknesses. I'm never going to be that great at, I don't know, scuba diving, right? Like that's not something I'm good at. I don't want to spend time, developing that skill. But one of the skills that I really did I like doing, and I think I'm okay at it, is public speaking, but I want it to be really good. And I'm still getting there and still working on it. So when I chose a mentor, I found the one that was the best at public speaking. And I said, that's what I want the most of out of this relationship. So that was for me personally. The other thing was I knew I wanted to move up. I wasn't happy being an individual contributor. I wanted to move into the management role. And that was my secondary goal, was find somebody that can help me do that. And so I knew exactly what I wanted. So I was one of those mentees that knew exactly what I wanted. I found the mentor that was going to get me there and took that on. Do you have a...
And then we highly encourage the mentees to, since it's a close group and everything is confidential, you can reach out to the different mentors. Even though you have your primary mentor, but if you have certain things that you want to discuss or topics that you're interested, the mentors are very encouraged to talk to the mentees as well. So you're not really set to that particular mentor.
Have you applied this to student worker level? Or thought about it?
UCSF has no undergrads, and we have very few student workers. So it's a luxury we'd love to have. We hear that there's challenges. We'd like to experience them ourselves, but we don't have any undergrads.
So you have 12 mentees and 12 mentors, and that's from the numbers for both years?
Yeah.
And how have you found that being, like, size-wise? Is that manageable? Is there, like, a huge demand where you have 200 people on the waiting list, or you need to get it bigger, or you need to keep it that size?
So far, for both years, the number of mentee applicants has been a little less than twice that number. And so that's been about right. We want to make it exclusive, but attainable. And then with the mentors, it's really hard to get mentors to sign up because they're so busy. And the math of matches says that you really want to give people 2 to 3 times the number of choices. And that's been the biggest challenge, actually. Getting people to apply to the program is not as hard as getting mentors to sign up. So 12 is kind of the limit that we've realized. We picked that number out of thin air, and boy, are we glad we didn't pick higher. Picking smaller made it we wanted to make this accessible. So it's a balance. I think based on our organization size, so we're down to 400-ish, it's about right in terms of percentage. So I think your results would vary depending on how many people you have in the program and what the pool is.
Are the skills that the mentees want to enhance more soft skills, or do you get into highly technical mentorship?
We don't provide really technical skill development. We give the mentees direction for that, but mostly the mentees are self-directed on, I want to develop this technical skill. They're looking for organizational knowledge, they're looking for a way up, they're looking for promotion, they're looking for a network to help them do their jobs better. And so we really focus more on that. We're, hmm?
Forgive me if this is there a categorization in a mentor's job description that covers this? So we're looking at their time they're spending throughout the week, that this is covered by that?
Yeah, no. So the question was, does this get written into someone's job description as, or how they're tracking their time as a mentor? This is administrative overhead that is seen to pay dividends to the organization, and because the leadership promotes it, not just tolerates it, it's not really ever questioned. So, all right, we're at time. Again, we will share these slides, and you will have access to all the links, and we will absolutely share all of our wiki, our surveys, everything you want. We'll share it with you. So.
Thank you.